Well, welcome and good afternoon, everybody, to Norfolk Constructing Excellence, to our May event titled The Winners Showcase. My name is Warren Salmons. I'm the chair of Norfolk Constructing Excellence, and I look forward to sharing some highlights of the winners from some of the awards this year. Hope you enjoyed the awards last month. A lot of effort from all the people who contributed in terms of nominations, judging. Was very much appreciated, especially to our sponsors as well. And I think it was not a bad stab at an online event in the middle of the pandemic. And let's hope we can all get back together properly like we have always done at a venue in the new year. Just a bit of housekeeping for today. I'll go through some interesting, exciting things at the end of the event, just to let you know what's going on through the summer into the autumn. But really now it's the introductions to what we're doing today. And there's just a reminder of everybody who won an award, so congratulations to them. We'll recap all of those at the end of the event today. But today's Winners Showcase will be kindly hosted by one of our new committee members, John Dixon from Ingleton Wood. He's been contributing to the committee now for a number of months and volunteered himself for this pleasure, pinnacle of his career, I think, to showcase some of the winners from this year's awards. And I'll hand you over to John now.
Thank you, Warren, for that introduction and reminding the world what people on the photograph there of me, what people used to look like before the world of lockdown, when we used to wear jackets to work that Warren still does now. So my role is to really act as a bit of a host associated with this event, and all I need to do is introduce the people who've been lucky enough to get the awards today, and we're looking forward to hearing more about the projects and the story behind the projects for which the awards were awarded last time. So we're going to kick off first with Harrison Group, who are awarded the prize for innovation. Today we're joined by John Archer, representing Harrison Group. In the character of innovation, we're looking for organisations or projects that have been developed and applied the most innovative approach to overcoming one or more construction challenges. Owners may have been developed a demonstrably new or different technique or process, or may have harnessed emerging or existing technologies to create new and improved products, tools or services leading to a better built outcome. So, John, I hope you're there and you can hear what we're saying. You're ready to, if you're ready to speak, perhaps you could talk us through your PowerPoint.
Certainly. Good afternoon. I'm John Archer. I'm Associate Director at Harrison Group. I'm presenting today with my colleague Conrad Stewart, our Data Manager. Harrison Group is a ground investigation company. We've got nearly 45 years experience of providing geotechnical investigations and contaminated land advice to the construction industry. We're immensely proud to have won the Innovation Award this year for the shareable report models. And as many of you may have experienced, hazards are often identified in the ground. And we found that modelling the data that we gather can help convey this information better to our clients. Conrad will tell you a bit more about this. If we could have the next slide, please. Conrad, you're on mute.
If we didn't have a bit on, you're on mute and during this session at some point or other, it'd be really disappointing, wouldn't it? So.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Absolutely. Yep, brilliant.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, yes, there were three key elements to the shareable report models that we were trying to achieve. The main one is that it is available and accessible. So it's important that the technical information is available to the project design team and construction team, particularly on the basis that they do not necessarily have the capabilities that we do with specialist software, particularly if they need to work with the information across the project lifecycle. Second key point is that it needs to allow a holistic review. So there's a lot of data sources that we use in our investigation work that's useful throughout the project. So it's important that the people using the modelling can interact with the different data sources and see how they compare against each other. And the final bit here is the importance that it is reusable across the project life cycle, particularly when hazards can be raised throughout the project development. Obviously, we recommend that you consult with the geotechnical specialist with all interpretation and the effect of the changes on the project. I'll pass you back to John Archer in regards to the challenges. If you can go to the next slide, please.
John, you need to unmute, mate.
Get the hang of it in the end. I think there's a slide before that. Hopefully. There we go. That's it. Great, thank you. So it can be hard to convey geotechnical risk, and geotechnical assessment can be highly technical, and it's often not available in a format that's easily understood for non-geotechnical professionals. So you may be used to receiving ground investigation reports, and they can include fieldwork records as pages and drawings that are supplied in 2 dimensions. And geotechnical modelling and analytical software can also be specialised. So many geotechnical software packages fulfil a specific role and can be very expensive to purchase and maintain. So it doesn't make sense for our clients to have to purchase that software just to be able to use what we do, and just on the basis of being able to review the work that we've produced for them. So we therefore sought a way to help our clients to visualise and contextualise the data we collect, such as historic mapping, evidence of varied features like tunnels and lines, and soil characteristics, together with the structures that are being designed and constructed. Could we have the next slide, please?
So,
Right.
So in terms of its success, the main elements of it is that it is time and cost saving. Through our integrated systems, it's very quick for us to update the modeling as we go along. It's all done through QGIS, which is an open source software, which helps bring it into a JavaScript format, which means it's available for anyone to view via a web browser, whether that's uploaded on the web or otherwise offline. It is also collaborative, so the modeling itself includes attribute data. So it means that anyone reviewing the information can specifically see the data points attached to the modeled features. It is also evolvable, so we're able to update it with different pieces of information as the project lifecycle progresses. So the model can also reflect this change over time. For example, the change in soil strength or density in regards to mitigation. The modeling itself is also adaptable and scalable to the size of the project involved. So it's great for anyone from a single homeowner to major infrastructure work. And the modeling itself is quite user-friendly. We provide instructions within the model space of how they can interact with the information, and the layout itself is relatively straightforward, with layers which can be turned off and on, and can be made partially translucent to help compare with other data sources. I don't know if we're going to have time later on during a Q&A or anything, but we also, if possible, have a model we can share with everyone if everyone's interested in having a look at that. I don't know if that's going to be possible today, but we have that possibility.
Perhaps if we can, I mean, we'll do a brief Q&A at the end of the session in a minute or so. But if we can perhaps have a look at that at the end, if people are interested to, perhaps we could contact you direct with that. Perhaps just from my point of view. So thanks for that presentation, Gus. That's nice and clear. And some of the questions I had, you've answered there already. In terms of its integration with BIM and modelling and those sorts of things, does it have the ability to weave into the 3-dimensional models that we have of sites already as well?
So the modelling itself, we do it through QGIS, but some of the features we do through software like Civil 3D with Autodesk. So some BIM software is also done with Autodesk as well, and those features can be digitized and brought into the model space, so you can compare your building data against the spatial data. So yes, there is that possibility, but also the data sources that we use are available to send across as well. So they have the original data they can access.
Okay, really interesting stuff, guys. Thank you. What we suggested as a format, we're going to do Q&A at the end of each presentation. So if there are any of the audience who'd like to ask a question of John and Conrad, then now's the time to politely wave your hand on the way that we can. I don't know if I'll be able to see that, but hopefully I will. Somebody's got a question in the chat here as well. No, that's me actually. Okay. Somebody's got a hand up there. I don't know how I get to the person who's got their hand raised up. Perhaps whoever it is could unmute themselves and have a chat, perhaps.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's Lee from Clancy. Conrad, just you're talking about kind of cost savings, are you actually taking data from sites when the piles are being installed on site? Is that part of it, that you can actually get that data and say, yeah, well, we don't need to go any deeper with those piles? Is that what you're trying to achieve as well? Or?
We can do. We haven't actually had any applications of that, as far as I'm aware of what we have done today. Mainly what we have used it recently is things like rapid impact compaction to densify soils, so that we can compare our previous testing to see wherever the densifications actually improve the soil for foundation laying and so on. So there is that possibility as well. I think the AGS themselves are actually looking at improving data sharing of piling data. So that isn't something that can be considered going forward with this sort of modelling as well.
Okay. John, Conrad, thanks very much for your presentation. We need to keep this moving on, so thanks and well done for your award for innovation. Okay, next up we've got preservation and rejuvenation. In this category, clients, the status we've got here is clients entrust their historic and listed buildings to the construction industry's care and preservation, conservation and rejuvenation. Rewarding their trust with excellent outcomes is what the judges are looking for. Judges will be looking to recognise the achievement of high standards of repair, reuse and revitalisation of the region's historic buildings, sites and places. Successful in winning that award were the Broads Authority with the Water Mills and Marshes 6 Mile House Mill project. And we've got Kate Knights here to talk us through that. Kate, are you okay to crack on from here?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, all yours.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Knights and I'm the Historic Environment Manager at the Broads Authority. We were thrilled to win the Preservation and Regeneration Award for our repair scheme at 6 Mile House Drainage Mill. As a bit of background to the project, the Broads Authority are running the Water Mills and Marshes project, which is primarily funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund as a landscape partnership scheme. The project is wide-ranging, with art exhibitions, projects with schools and new footpaths, all with the aim of improving understanding of and access to the Halvergate Marshes area of the Broads. If we could keep it on this slide, that would be great, thank you. I run the Land of the Windmills project, which is also part of the Water Mills and Marshes scheme. The aim of the project is to repair some of the many drainage mills that are so characteristic of the Broads and contribute so greatly to the Halvergate Marshes conservation area. In doing so, the other objective is to improve the provision of heritage construction skills in the area. We have a brickwork apprentice and a carpentry apprentice, Brandon and Tom, who have been integral to the success of the project and are led by our Heritage Skills Supervisor, Sean. We also work with City College Norwich to ensure that their construction students receive an element of heritage skills training, both on site on the mills and in our Heritage Skills Workshop at City College. This particular part of the project was to repair the Grade 2 listed drainage mill at 6 Mile House, Runham, just north of the Acle Strait. As you can see from the photograph, the building was in a very poor condition. No floors, no doors or windows and no cap, as well as quite a meadow growing from its brickwork. Some of the historic machinery remained in situ, and we wanted to ensure that the building was repaired and watertight so that it did not deteriorate further. Next slide, please. So the repair of the mill started in the autumn of 2019, when we had little idea what was about to hit us. COVID meant that we had to achieve new COVID-secure ways of working for both Sean, Tom and Brandon and the students on the occasions that they could visit the site. It meant that at times we had to take everyone off site due to team members self-isolating or lack of supervision of the apprentices. Most significantly, it meant that there were long periods where City College was closed and we were only able to have 2 relatively short periods where the students were able to come out on site and get that valuable work experience. The consequence of this was that almost all of the work on the mill was carried out by Sean, Tom and Brandon. Another problem was access to the mill. As you can see from this photograph, this shows just a small section of the very long track from the A47 to the mill, which is almost impossible in winter, and throughout the summer you have to navigate around cattle, which can also be quite interesting. As you can imagine, this results in some activities being somewhat seasonal. When it came to the new cap, the lack of access for a crane played a significant part in the new design, which allowed for timber sections to be cut at ground level and erected in situ relatively easily by 1 or 2 people. The other problem was that traditionally the mills were coated in coal tar, which has recently been banned under REACH legislation. We had to carry out a lot of research, and we painted on many samples, and in the end we used a coal tar substitute called CTP5X, which is a petroleum-based product. This is a new problem that all millwrights are facing, and so the use of this product at 6 Mile House will be something of a trial, and we will watch with interest how it weathers and make the results known to others. The success of the project has been largely due to the hard work and perseverance of Tom, Brandon and Sean. Tom and Brandon have learnt many new skills, from scarf joint repairs to the intricacies of brickwork on the mill, using lime mortar and with the brickwork gently curving in 2 directions. They also gained valuable procurement skills. We've worked closely with City College, the mill's owners, ecologists, our structural engineers and others to overcome some of the technical difficulties that have arisen. For example, in the development of the cap design and the trialling of the tar substitute. This last slide shows the new ladders, windows and floor, all installed by Tom. The apprentices also gained an understanding of the planning requirements of a project such as this, with conditions to be discharged relating to various elements such as ecological enhancements. On this mill we have new external back boxes, and Tom and the City College students built new internal back crevice boxes and an owl box, while Brandon has been involved in the creation of a bat hibernarium in the drainage channel. Despite COVID, the result has been that a valuable heritage asset can now be removed from the buildings at risk register, with its life expectancy significantly extended. The mill now positively contributes to its wider area, and both through the ecological and the physical enhancements. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, for that presentation. Really nice and clear. What I like about that, in terms of the detail there, is it's about Sean, Tom, and Brandon and their experience of building something like this. It's a really interesting story. And it sort of adds to the layering of work with historic buildings that makes them so fascinating. I'm interested also by the fact that, you know, Kate, in terms of the issues associated with accessibility and things to a site like this, they get no easier as time goes on. And so did that in some respect force the way in which you reverted to traditional methods to deliver this, because you couldn't get a crane there, for example?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was definitely one of the main considerations with all of these mills. That tends to be one of the main problems. So, you know, we're always having to look at ways of overcoming it, and, like you said, back to traditional methods, really.
No, really fascinating, beautiful project. Thank you very much. Okay,
thank you.
All right, let's keep cracking on with the agenda. I'm conscious of time ticking on, and I'm never very good at doing that, because as an architect we're always behind. So let's try the next one. Okay, next one is our award for off-site construction. So the judges was looking at this one. So a number of factors are convening to make off-site construction a more attractive solution than ever before. It can help address systematic failures, including low productivity, low predictability, low margins, adversarial pricing, and lack of culture of collaboration, limited R&D, and investment in innovation and poor image. So this award was won by Clancy Consulting for the Norwich Road Academy Thetford project. And today we've got Lee Philbrook speaking on behalf of Clancy. Lee, are you ready to kick off and talk away?
I am, John. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So my name's Lee Philbrook. I'm Associate at Clancy Consulting in Norwich. Our submission was for the Norwich Road Academy in Thetford with our partner Net Zero Buildings. We've been delivering kind of off-site construction projects with Net Zero Buildings for a number of years now across the country. So it was quite, you know, we were delighted to win an award for one of these projects, and it just happened to be in Thetford. Next slide, please. So the project brief set by the client was we needed to provide some space for 26 children for some early years learning, so there wasn't enough space on the site, particularly to facilitate children to be on the school grounds kind of before school hours. So that was one of the key drivers for the project. The second thing was that the school were quite keen on the project being as short as possible. We'll perhaps come on to some of the reasons of that, but the school were very much concerned about safety, and I think that's where kind of off-site construction can come into its own. And also, which was good, is the client had ambitions to reduce the carbon within the construction and life cycle. So, and that's something that we're seeing more and more now with our clients, that they're quite conscious about reducing carbon in construction, you know, to meet the government targets. Next slide, please. So just going back to one of the client's brief, that they were quite concerned about safety on site with the children, that the site was very constrained. So from the site access to where the building was located, it was being put behind another building, tight up against the boundary, which is quite typical on some of these small classroom blocks. We had retaining walls, trees, you name it, it was in the way. Also, the children had to kind of cross through part of the site, which, you know, and it just all seemed a little bit, a bit risky. But I think the kind of the 2D panelised system that we adopt with the SIP panels allows, you know, you can bring all the panels to site and they can be lifted over in times when the children are not around, so there's less kind of construction activities happening on the site. Also, very short programme to kind of reduce that time on site and the risk. So the building was actually delivered in 50 days. So that was from turning up on site, demolishing an old building, digging the new foundations, and handover. So I think that was quite amazing. The third point, with the client wanting to reduce the carbon, our partner Net Zero Buildings, their standard offering is to try and achieve a net zero building. So that was quite a natural kind of relationship, really, to try and achieve the same goal. Next slide, please, Warren. So just some key points on the project. So I think off-site manufacturing was key to this project. It improved the safety on the site, and we were able to have a shorter programme. Provision of whole engineering. So when we say whole engineering, we provide a kind of multidisciplinary service to our partner. We also get involved in the manufacturing side as well. The lifting of the panels or the volumetrics, and we actually get involved in the design of how that happens. So we're very much kind of ingrained into how it happens. We like to share our knowledge with our colleagues across other offices as well. So not all our offices are working in the off-site sector, but we do train staff in other offices just so they can gain some experience and knowledge of these methods. On this project, interestingly, there's going to be a post-occupancy evaluation. So in 12 months' time, the performance of the building will be measured against the design, which I think could be quite interesting. And I think, just generally across the industry, particularly maybe with the school sites, we're seeing a bit of a shift more towards off-site. I think they can see the benefits with speed and safety. And also having a client and a partner contracted to deliver these projects with, and all having the same ambition to reduce the carbon, I think is key. I think we had some comments from the judges saying that we perhaps mentioned quite a bit about our partner in our submission, but I think the key to off-site construction is the partnership with all the design team, contractors, subcontractors, to make it a success. Thank you.
Okay, Lee, thanks very much for that presentation. Again, another great project. I think schools always represent particular and unique challenges associated with, as you say, kids' safety. and also about windows of time and program. And we struggle with this all the time, that typical that 5 or 6 week window of time to get things done for school, no matter what they are over that period in the summer, is always the key challenge. I'm interested to know, in terms of what you do next time, are there any learnings you got from this that you could better on the next one that comes along? How can the process be made even faster or better quality offsite?
Better quality. I think it's always a challenge working with the manufacturing teams, because they're often they're concentrating on the project that's going through the factory, where we want to try and get that team involved in the early stages of the design, because once we've completed a design to a particular stage, it's quite hard to go back to then integrate the kind of nuances with the manufacturing process. So, yeah.
I guess the difficulty, and I suppose I've banged this drum before about understanding the benefits of offsite is great as far as speed and quality, but it's just making sure that the project doesn't become obsessed by its speed of manufacture and its construction process rather than what it's actually intended for. That's always the thing I keep coming back to. But obviously, the school projects like this are a great advocate of offsite manufacture, because they can work really, really well. Okay. All right, I've realised, for those who were paying attention to what I said earlier, I do Q&A at the end of every session, but I suspect as we're cracking along on time now, we're a little bit behind. I'm proposing to do a roundup one at the end. I hope that's okay by everybody. I'm running this as a kind of permanent process. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so Lee, thank you very much for your presentation there. All good. Our next presentation up, Warren, if you could hit the next one, if you're still awake behind the scenes there. There we go. Smiths of Honningham. So this category was about value. I'm sorry, wrong one. Beg your pardon. Sorry, integration and collaborative working. So in this one, collaborative working is central to the core of values of constructing excellence and its drive to evidence and the excellence in the construction industry. It is most likely to manifest in the delivery of specific projects. However, those who can demonstrate a culture across a series of programs or projects show leadership in sustaining their approach. Integration of the supply chain and client and end users will normally lead to better outcomes, satisfying all stakeholders. The judges were looking for the entries that have collaborative working and has delivered outstanding results and significant benefits to the whole supply and partnership involved. Winner on this category was Smiths of Honningham for the new mustard mill and mint factory. And today on the line we've got Jonathan Smith to talk us through this project. Jonathan, over to you.
Oh, thanks, John. Yeah, no, we were delighted to win this category, working in partnership with our supply chain and client. Yeah, if we crack on with the next slide, please. Yeah, so what was the project brief? Well, our client was already a forward-thinking group of mustard seed producers and mint growers who had come together to form Condimentum with the objective of taking on processing of the raw ingredients that they produce. They took an early decision to employ Dave Martin, who's a prominent figure within the food manufacturing industry, to drive that idea through into reality. And they needed a new facility, a new mustard mill and a facility to process the mint, and that building needed to provide the ability to house new and far more modern equipment than the 1960s mill and the considerably agricultural process which was in place at Carrow Works. They also needed an administrative base for their operations as they were a new company. We'd been appointed on a two-stage tender process, and from our early discussions with the team, it was clear that a collaborative approach to the project was desired by everyone and was going to be key to the success of the project. The collaboration continued with the core Condimentum and Smiths team selecting additional supply chain partners on many more factors than just price alone. If we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, there were a number of challenges which our collaborative approach sort of helped to answer, I believe. And so firstly was really that Condimentum's plans were accelerated due to the announcement by Britvic to close their operations at Carrow Works. That was predominantly because there was key infrastructure that was provided by Britvic to Unilever. And because of that dependency, and because Unilever were needing to rehome many more product lines than those relocating to Honningham, there was a fixed and immovable end date. The completion date was also driven by the mint harvest. I understand that mint must be processed and blended within 2 hours post-harvesting, and the annual supply of mint is harvested once a year over a 16-week period. The new the new facility is based on the Food Enterprise Park just down the road from us at Honningham, and that whole area is subject to a local development order permitting developments to proceed without further approval, providing certain conditions are met. One of those is a condition on height of buildings and structures of 10 metres. So, the building process requires a building with a greater height than this. So under the LDO, the adjoining building and external works could proceed, but planning approval is required for the 20-metre tall mill tower, which is obviously with the accelerated programme quite a consideration. Condimentum, they were also the first occupier of the Food Enterprise Park, and on the food park they offer serviced plots. But at the commencement of our construction of our project, the FEP hadn't at that point established any estate roads or services. So the provision of these we needed to take account of and include within our programme. The power to the site was somewhat of a task, because I understand and believe that the connection point to the grid was quite some way away. It was, I don't know if anyone knows where the food park is, but it's sort of right one end of Easton, and the connection to the grid was right down the other end of Easton near the BMW garage. So I'll go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and I didn't realise until we started this project that there are only 3 mills in the world that produce superfine mustard powder, and that the oils in the mustard seed make the design of the mill quite a unique and specialised engineering project in itself. The space requirements were fairly well defined when we came on board, but because of the specialist nature of the production machinery they needed to put in, the client's focus was on making sure that that was right, and that the same familiar flavour profile of the mustard flour was retained, and that the production at Honningham was producing a product which was unrecognisably different from that produced down at Carrow. So as you can imagine, the design of the building was a secondary consideration to a lot of ways for the client. They needed to focus and make sure they got their engineering elements right. So what we did, we organised a workshop with key supply chain partners at an earliest opportunity to fast track that design process. The evolving design of the specialist processing equipment was a challenge. This is because as we were starting construction and needed to commence with that, some key changes were still being made to that process and impacting upon the design, the structural design being a key one, which was impacted. We therefore held fortnightly site meetings to aid regular communication, when we kept the programme under constant review to make sure we hit the completion date, and we also made sure that the review of the programme pushed forward with perhaps other tasks which could progress when others were perhaps held up. As a result, we did end up casting most of the concrete hard standing before the steel frame was erected, which was round the other way originally on our programme. The client had an international team of specialists that we coordinated with to make sure that the relevant parts of the building were ready to suit their programme and installation and commissioning requirements, sort of agreed with the client. And so much so we actually left one side of the mill, the cladding, one side of the cladding off of the mill for a period of time, just to facilitate installation of various large pieces of processing equipment. If you go to the next slide, please. So was there any key learning? Well, yeah, at the outset, we realised that early engagement with key subcontractors was going to be important, but it turned out to be critical to the success of the project, really. If we'd waited until the requirements set upon the building by the processing equipment were fully known before engaging with key subcontractors, there wouldn't have been sufficient time to deliver the project. And what made us successful? The project was delivered on time to transfer the production seamlessly from Carrow Works and to receive the mint harvest. The programme was kept under constant review, reacting to changes in the design and taking opportunities to progress in other areas where possible. Fortnightly site meetings provided regular reporting and review and kept key project stakeholders updated. The entire project team bought into the collaborative approach. I think that was key. And finally, the planning integration of activities with the client's specialist suppliers was managed efficiently and effectively. Key dates were known to the site team and to the wider project team, and talking with the client just recently. His comment was that all the key milestones were hit. There was never a frustrated call from a specialist supplier to say, we're not ready. It was all we hit the dates and the project progressed. So sorry that, and that's it. Yeah, thanks very much.
Okay. Jonathan, excellent. Really interesting to hear about. Sorry, really interesting. It's such a success story of a project. I feel like I know more about Mint now than I knew before. The day for obviously Mint is now going to be stuck in my mind, and I will now forever associate you with Mint and Mills as well. Really interesting, and all the things that we all know about collaboration between clients and construction and getting contractors involved early leads to best results. This seems to be a really good evidence of that process. So congratulations on the award, and clearly well deserved. Okay, I'm conscious the time is ticking on, so if we can perhaps move on to the next one. So our next project is under value. So in this one, the category associated with it said, winners will demonstrate how the whole life costs and value have been considered from the outset, combining capital costs of construction with maintenance, operations and occupiers' costs. The most important factor will have been the outcomes for the owners and the users of the facilities, and these should have been a key driver throughout the process of construction and process. So this award was given to Cannon Clark Architects for the Matthew project, and today we're talking to Andrew and John Brent from Cannon Clark. Chaps, are you ready to double team this project and kick us off with the presentation?
Yes, thank you very much, John. Thank you. I'll kick off first. So I'm Andrew Clark, one of the directors of Cannon Clark Architects. I'm joined by John Brent. We're a contemporary design studio based in Norwich. And we're absolutely thrilled to receive this award and incredibly proud to have delivered the project for the Matthew project. So for those who don't know, the Matthew project are a well-established charity in Norwich tackling the issues of substance misuse and addiction. And the Next Steps Recovery Hub is a facility for the later stages of those addictions, so part of that programme. In terms of clients' aspirations, it's a very broad brief and a lot of consultees in there, but effectively wanted to create a warm, cosy place to meet, an area to feel included, welcoming, friendly. Oh yeah, sorry, next slide. So we had detailed consultations with all the service users, staff and trustees, and helped to deliver the brief. And I think having listened carefully to the service users, we really got to understand their challenges. We've met some amazing people, and we were really invested in providing something very special. So this feedback was passed to our design team. So John, would you just like to talk about design?
Yes, I mean, this building was an existing building. It was a calorie testing centre. It's a light industrial unit just off Oak Street. And as such, we inherited the building with before it had been soft stripped, and it had a fair amount of sort of detritus of its previous use, or in terms of FF&E furniture, but mostly sort of the walls were in a real state. They had surface mounted conduit, they had patchwork of plasterboard, plaster, block work. And I think at our early engagement, the strip out contract had already been awarded. And I think the client was about to spend sort of £30,000 to £40,000 making the walls good and making them true. And we said, well, actually, I think there's better ways you could spend your money. Just sort of paint it black. No one will see it, sort of what they do in theatres, and give yourself £30,000 to spend on the stuff that's front and centre, the kind of the cafe space and the fixtures and fittings. And they quite happily adopted that ethos. And similarly, we said, there's a lot of technical difficulty and time and effort in building internal partition walls, which subdivide the various rooms in the space, up to the ceiling. There's truss, cross-member trusses, there's services, there's roof lights. So we came up with a concept that if we put a mezzanine in, you don't have to build those walls to ceiling, and therefore save on a lot of difficult interfaces. So our kind of core brief was for the social hub, the cafe space. Some of those teaching areas had already been fitted out, and part of that brief was to provide the council rooms and therapy rooms, which sat underneath the mezzanine. The mezzanine itself was a sort of a sub lounge to the cafe, which was on double height space below. Back of house facilities, things that aren't obviously evident to some people, but providing showers and laundry facilities for people. You know, some of these people are perhaps homeless, and giving them somewhere where they could come for the day, avoid them the temptation of substance abuse, let them enjoy food, drink, let them clean themselves up, do their laundry, etc. Next slide, please. This particular space was the therapy room. So this is a box within a box, acoustically lined. In this particular instance, we did have to go up to the roof, but there was only 3 walls out of a possible sort of 30 on site. So it's a double height space, sprung floor, lots of storage, a lot of use of robust materials. You know, the potential misuse of something like a plaster wall that can get kicked or scuffed. So wherever possible, we try to align with self-facing materials, self-finished materials, and the OSB. Strand ball was the one we opted for. And I think the other part of the brief was not make it feel like a excuse me, an NHS walk-in centre with sort of the mint green kind of hard surfaces, kind of a very institutional feel. We wanted to be non-institutional. The client was very much up for a dry Shoreditch, inverted commas, style kind of club, pub, cafe space. Next slide, please. Angie, over to you. Do you want to talk about the deliverability?
Yeah, I mean, the project was procured under a traditional contract, design, bid, build. We originally had a QS look at budget costings, which were in the region of £400,000. So that gave us, a target to work to, but more importantly, allowed our clients to understand what the budgets could be, because this was generally delivered in phases, whereby we had pretty much a reactive funding mechanism. So basically, where the design was developed to a certain point, the client had to pretty much go out and get those funds. So we basically set ourselves a challenge to really beat those QS estimates. And it was actually delivered for I think £330,000 plus VAT, which is we found that a big success from the original budget cost estimate. And a lot of that is down to clever uses of materials, like John said, just having the material as the finish, avoiding plastered surfaces, exposing the mechanical and electrical installations. It worked really well. So that was in the forefront of our minds, but it was delivered on time, and I'd like to think it was delivered to the contract sum, but certainly under the original cost estimate. So yeah, we do see that as a success story. Thanks.
That's very good, chaps. What's always really interesting and particularly important for charitable clients like this, every pound that you build counts, because their money often would rather be placed sometimes on staffing and doing the work they actually do rather than the building around them. But this is a really good example of how outside the box thinking by you guys really helps to save the money on the project as well. So, and create something which looks, it's just as a design project, looks superb, looks contemporary, and delightful to have a client who's really up for doing that kind of thing as well. So well done for that project, and certainly value really achieved on this one. Well done.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm conscious of time. We've got one more to go, and I'm conscious of trying to finish within the hour if I can. So we'll bring it home with our final presenter here. So the last category is digital. So the criteria set here are digital construction embraces BIM, GIS, big data, and other evolving technological advancements. Technology has transformed the world we live in and the potential to revolutionise the construction industry. This category awards organisations, projects or initiatives that have been adopted, advanced and achieved excellence in digital construction. And judges were looking for examples of how adoption of collaborative digital processes has dramatically improved the planning, design, fabrication, construction and operation of built facilities or infrastructure. In this case, the award was won by Excel Works, and James Lee is here to talk about it today. James, are you there?
I am here.
All yours.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it was really great to win this, and also been great to see everybody else's winning entries. Really fantastic projects there. Excel Works was set up we were set up nearly to the date about 2 years ago with the express mission of embracing mixed reality in construction and the built environment. So getting this award for our Construct Excel program is fantastic for our journey. And so Construct Excel was a project that we are doing collaboratively with Conisbee, Carter's, Clancy, Copy Architects, Clear Consulting Design at 2 projects in Norwich, the Castle and also Digitech Factory, but we have more projects coming online soon. This initiative started through our entry into the mixed reality world by getting involved with Microsoft HoloLens. Can you show the next slide, please? And we wanted to find a way, because Excel Works at its core has collaboration as well as technology. We wanted to find a way of engaging with local consultants and contractors and clients to explore the technology and that we saw as a real game changer for the industry. And this is going to be something we're going to see more and more going forwards. So our mission was to be the expert, the leading light on this. That's the plan. And we are getting quite a lot of traction now, which is really exciting. But the main mission was to set up our own brief essentially, and approached our clients, which were very open-minded and very supportive. So thanks again for that. And using the Microsoft HoloLens XR10 by Trimble. So this is a mixed reality headset. And for people that don't know what that means, this overlays holograms in the real world and can do this at 1-to-1 scale. So it's bridging the gap between 3D models and on-site interpretation. So it's not VR, which is closed. It's not AR, which is through a screen. This is 3 dimensions in real time on site or in a meeting. So the proposal for the Construct XR project is to be collaborative. We offer training in the use of the equipment and demonstrations. We also wanted to really stress test the technology on site so we get tangible data and tangible feedback, because that's always the challenge in the industry. I think the ability to sort of dip your toe in and try things out at a lower overhead is very attractive. So that's what we wanted to start to offer to people. So that could be generally help companies locally, but also always an outreach element to students as well, because the next generation is really important. It's demonstrating how the future construction is going to be multifaceted, in that it's going to cross technology boundaries into areas like gaming, which the HoloLens relies on gaming software to part of its workflow. So it's just trying to demonstrate these changes that are coming very quickly to the industry. And I think we also set up a website on Construct XR, and we've done some intro and explanatory videos which are ongoing. So you can look at me droning on if you want on the website. Yeah, so we kind of made our own brief up and people started to engage with it. So next slide, please. Challenges we found. You don't have to have wireless connectivity, but some of the good features on the headset do need that. So I think this is going to be something that's going to become increasingly important on construction sites going forward. We have 5G coming, which is great. As soon as that gets rolled out properly, the site wireless at Digitech Factory kind of couldn't cope with some of the collaborative calling features. So we ended up working off a 4G phone and a mobile dongle. So it's all possible. I think initially, because this was quite new technology, the XR10 headset only got released last summer. So we were very early adopters. So it's been a kind of educating and knowledge sharing process over the last few months, explaining to people what this technology is, because I think VR has kind of only really just taken hold properly, but it is totally different to that. It breaks that barrier between BIM and on-site interpretability, which is the thing that everybody's getting very excited about. I think that those technical points at the bottom, industry openness, new tech, and in general, I think that's linked to project time constraints and costs. I think people, everything moves at such a speed now that it's very difficult for clients and contractors and consultants to take a breath and experience this kind of technology and see how useful it is. So the fact that we managed to get some traction with local consultants and contractors and clients is fantastic. So I think once we start showing this and proving it, that's going to become more ubiquitous. And we've now got the support of Trimble, which is amazing, who are an international company. Some people may know of them. So we now work closely with their XR lead for Europe. So that's quite a journey we've been on, which has been exciting. So more to come. Next slide, John. Key learning, I think one of the big surprises was the fact that Conisbees at the Castle project actually then began using it as part of their workflow to cross overlay the steel project. So that image on the right is our images from the Castle project, which is a Grade 1 listed museum in Norwich. Most of you probably know about it. And I think that was really exciting to get that as part of their workflow, where they used it to snag and tag clashes and then take that back to the office using their headset sensors. The feedback is also that the excitement of being able to get elements of 3D and BIM right down to site level, because everybody can understand a 3D element on site as opposed to having to work with 2D drawings on time. And the interface, intuitive. We found that most people, even those that claim to be non-technical people, can get the hang of the interface quickly, because it's kind of using your hands and manipulating 3D objects. And ultimately, it's the mission of increasing collaboration and problem solving on site using 3D data. So there, that's it. Done. Cheers. You're on mute.
Muted myself then. Sorry, classic. Always really excited about technology being used in advancement for architects. All those things and toys that we use to visualize what we do are always really cool to see. I know from our experience with using similar sort of things, they are the leading edge in where the world is going. I think still trying to bridge the gap between the things that the guys do on site, the guys who deal with bits of wood and steel and mud and things, and bridging it to the gap that where they're using technology and how those worlds meet is always going to be really interesting. But great to see that technology being taken up and being advanced. I think it is the future. I think you're absolutely right. And it will be a brighter world because of it. I think we're kind of nearly out of time, and I'm going to ask Warren to probably summarise in a minute. But there probably is a brief bit of time. If anybody's got any burning Q&A questions that they want to raise their hand up and ask, then now probably is the time to do that. Or there'll be an awkward silence for a few seconds. Well, nobody does. I don't know. That's the awkward silence. Okay. Okay, I think therefore, as my battery expired just in the right amount of time on my laptop, and I've now switched to a different camera angle on my iPad instead, I'm going to probably pass back to Warren, having thanked all the people we've got here for their presentations today and the effort that went into those. Always really appreciated that people do make the effort to share the learning and the intelligence they're growing in Norfolk. It's really good to see, and congratulations again from me for all those who won the awards. Really well done. Warren, over to you, mate.
Thanks, John. Absolutely brilliant, and well done, everybody. Just to recap, that was Harrison Group, Smith & Honningham, Broads Authority, Cannon Clark Architects, Clancy Consulting, and Excel Works. Wonderful stuff, really good. And John Smith, Fresh Mint, that's your nickname now, I think. Absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed it, and I think it's brought to life the award winners. We focused on projects for this event today because ultimately that's what we all love to be involved with, isn't it? So really good to see, and hopefully you'll have some wonderful entrants into next year's awards as well. Also, thanks again to our sponsors for the awards. Normally they get massive amount of coverage on the night because they have their banners up on a stage. We haven't got that ability this year. So just to recap again, the sponsors for this year's awards were Parker Planning Services, Big Sky Developments, LSI Architects, CIOB, Clancy Consulting, Morgan Sindall Construction, Wren Energy, Field & Mawson, Hudson Architects, Edge Consult, Excel Works, Oxby Chartered Surveyors, and Purcell. Thanks again for your support. We can't run the club without funds, money, help, support from everybody. So wonderful stuff. So really, next steps. So in June, we are planning a couple of virtual site visits on some live construction projects, just for finalising the venues, and hopefully we'll have quite a few numbers attending that. And I think it's a little bit soon to maybe have in June people on site because of the restrictions and the CIC guidance. We haven't quite got clarity on that just yet, but we will do a virtual event next month. And that will pretty much be the end of this season's online event, which we've had to switch to. There will be a survey going out to everybody who's attended any event through this last year, and feedback is really important so we can understand what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of, John, Dixon, what you want to see less of, Warren Salmons, and we'll have some good events planned for you in the summer through the committee. We will be having our first event in July, which we are labelling it as a VIP event. So there'll be some invitations going out to everybody who's either sponsored, contributed, entered an award, or has played a part in this year's program. It's been really difficult from everybody's point of view in terms of what we used to do and adapting to this new way of working for now. So we're going to try and celebrate that with everybody who's put a little bit into the club this year for us, and we just want to get together, hopefully at the Georgian Townhouse in the garden on a sunny July afternoon. So details to follow. If there's spare places, there will be a second ballot for anybody who's not on that list who can maybe attend and apply for a ticket to join us as well. We will be looking through the summer and into the autumn to relaunch what we used to call ACL, the Aspiring Construction Leaders, into something more aligned with Generation for Change, which is a Norfolk Constructing Excellence partnership with the national body of Constructing Excellence. And that is the opportunity to try and get more young people, young professionals in our industry to get together, network, grow their relationships, and become boring old farts like me in the future. I didn't mention you then, John, by the way. And then in October, we'll have an AGM, and we are hoping by then that we've all had our injections and we can get together for a proper AGM where we're all together enjoying each other's company once again. So that's what we've got coming up. I hope this last 9 to 10 months of online events hasn't been too painful for you. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thanks very much, everybody.